She's not the type they expect to hold a check that size. She's the type they expect to say no to. Under the bank's frosty lights, a black mother stands quietly, her grip tight on her purse. She's waited in this line 1,000 times, invisible but never unnoticed. Today, she's not here for herself. She's here for a check. A check so large it could make her tremble if she allowed herself to show weakness. She steps forward, meets the teller's gaze, and offers a soft smile. For a second, there's a flicker of hope, but the teller's eyes narrow. The world feels as if it holds its breath. If you were a witness to this injustice, what would you do? No one in the lobby yet knows how quickly power can change hands. She inhales steadily. The humiliation is just beginning. Valentian's Linda, the teller, inspects the check again. A $25,000 0-cent draft, handwritten but unmistakably valid, signed with flourish and confidence. She glances at the mother. Neat hair, plain jacket, and posture both careful and proud. Linda's mind flickers to headlines and bank warnings. Fraud, deceit. Her training kicks in, and with it, the undercurrent of every prejudice she's absorbed in this sterile world. From behind her counter, Linda pastes on a smile, but her eyes shift sideways, seeking support from her co-worker Sam, whose eyes barely flick upward. She leans closer, lowering her voice as she addresses the woman. "Is this for a business transaction?" Her tone is pleasant, but her fingers drum impatiently. The mother answers softly, "It's a personal check. My son wrote it for me." She doesn't offer more. She's learned explanations are rarely enough. Linda's mind races. A check this big? She's thinking, not for someone like her. She remembers last week's staff meeting, warnings about scams, about red flags. She wonders, even if only for a second, how a woman who looks like this could deserve so much trust. A flashback, quick as a camera shutter. The mother in her kitchen years ago, telling her young son, "Never let suspicion define you. Prove them wrong with kindness." The memory steeled her now as Linda asked, "How long have you had your account here?" A question loaded with implication, even as she types the answer into her terminal. A white customer steps up to the next window. The exchange is breezy, full of, "How are you today?" and "Take care." Linda's jaw tightens. Her gaze never leaves the mother. "Can I see your ID?" she asks, almost apologetically, though her posture says otherwise. The mother hands over her ID and debit card. Linda scrutinizes the photo, holds it against the check, then glances up, searching for any sign of fraud. The mother waits, hands folded, the eyes of other customers grazing her back, like static. Sam sidles over, peering at the check. "Something up?" he murmurs. Linda frowns, not quite whispering, just being careful. She doesn't notice the mother's fingers tightening on her purse. The silence between them grows thick. The mother's mind returns to that kitchen, to her son's words. "One day, Mom, they'll see who we are." She wonders if that day is today. Linda calls the supervisor with a discreet wave that's anything but subtle. The mother senses the shift in the air, feels eyes turning one by one toward her and her check, as if she's done something wrong simply by existing in this space. Linda's smile is stretched thin now, all customer service pretense gone. "I'll need to confirm this with our branch manager," she says, voice just a notch too loud. The mother nods. She sits up straighter, voice unwavering. "Of course. Please do." Linda leans in, close enough that only the mother can hear. "We get checks like this sometimes, you know. They're not always real." The mother's lips part, a protest half-formed, but she closes them. She's learned how quickly the situation can turn when she pushes back. "My son wrote it for me. He's an executive." Her eyes flick away. Does she really need to defend her son or herself here? Linda's reply is pointed. "You said executive. At which company?" She says it as if she already doubts the answer. as if she's collecting ammunition. I don't have to disclose that, the mother says. But her confidence flickers for just a second. The queue grows longer. People murmur. A security guard lingers, arms folded, watching. At the next counter, Sam leans in. "Need backup?" he asks, voice low. Linda shakes her head, eager to handle this herself. The manager arrives, gray-suited and distracted. Linda presents the check, her words painting the mother as a potential risk. "This isn't a normal request. We have to be careful. The amount, the signature." The manager glances at the mother, then at the check, then at Linda. "Did you check the account, the signature on file?" Linda nods, but she can't hide her suspicion. The manager sighs, rubs his brow. "Follow protocol," he says. "Get documentation, no shortcuts." He glances at the mother with polite indifference. Linda turns back to the mother, face firm. "Do you have any other documentation, proof of relationship, anything like that?" Her words, meant to sound routine, echo as an accusation. The mother holds her purse tighter, pulse pounding. She tries to summon her father's voice, her own resilience. "I have nothing to prove except my honesty." Linda's jaw clenches. "Then you'll have to wait while we check everything." Linda walks away with the check in hand, her heels clicking like a metronome of judgment across the gleaming bank floor. She heads straight for the supervisor's glass-walled office, waving the check in the air as if it were a counterfeit bill, not a mother's lifeline. Through the window, the mother sees Linda gesturing animatedly, sees the manager's brows knit together, and sees Sam peering over with poorly hidden curiosity. She feels herself shrinking, even as she tries to sit tall. Customers in the queue watch openly now. Whispers ripple behind cupped hands. "Did you see the amount? She doesn't look like she should be carrying that." The security guard lingers by the rope line, eyes fixed, not bothering to hide his suspicion. The mother feels their stares, hot and heavy on the back of her neck. The minutes stretch. Linda returns with the manager and Sam trailing, holding her IDs like evidence. "For the record," Linda says, louder than before, "we have to be thorough. There are a lot of scams lately. Please sit over here." She points to a row of chairs, far from the teller window, directly in view of everyone in the lobby. The mother walks to the chair, sits, and rests her purse on her lap. Her heart hammers, but her face is placid, only the slightest tremor betraying her hands. She watches as Linda and the manager talk in hushed tones, glancing at her, at the check, and at her again. Linda disappears into the back office. The lobby grows restless. A mother with a toddler shifts uncomfortably. An older man tuts under his breath. No one meets her eyes, but all eyes are drawn to her. The mother's mind drifts back to when she was a little girl, made to stand at the front of her classroom while a teacher accused her of cheating on a spelling test. Back then, she stood silent, endured, and promised herself she'd never let anyone make her feel small again. And yet here she is made small again. Time passes. Linda returns, her face now set and severe. "Ma'am," she says, projecting for all to hear, "the signatures don't match. We're going to have to confiscate this check." She snaps on a pair of gloves and with exaggerated caution begins to tear the check in two, right in front of her. Each rip sounds like thunder. A collective gasp rises from the crowd. The mother freezes, 1,000 emotions surging, shame, rage, humiliation, but she forces herself not to move. "This is a routine procedure," Linda says, but the gleam in her eye says she knows exactly what she's doing. The mother rises, unsteady but determined. "You didn't have to do that." Her voice shakes, but she does not break. Linda shrugs. "It's policy. We can't take risks. You're free to contact your account representative if you think this is a mistake." The mother stares at the torn check, her son's signature, her family's story, now scattered like confetti on the cold tile. She bends to gather the pieces, her hands trembling, cheeks burning with humiliation. From across the bank, a woman whispers, "Poor thing." Another says, "Probably for the best." You never know with people these days. The mother straightens, the torn check clutched in her hand, eyes shining with unshed tears. She does not give Linda the satisfaction of seeing her cry. With her dignity as battered as her cheek, she walks from the bank, past the stairs, past the whispers, out into the blinding sun. She stands on the bank steps, the city's chaos blurring around her as if behind thick glass. The torn check feels sharp in her palm, edges digging into skin, grounding her anger. She forces herself to slow her breath. Inhale, exhale. Don't let them see you break. Not here. The crowd moves past her, oblivious, a world that's never looked her way until it was time to judge. The humiliation clings to her like sweat. She can still feel Linda's voice echoing in her chest, and still see the manager's look of practiced indifference. For a moment, the mother wants to shout, to confront, to turn and hurl the shredded check at their feet. But the lessons from her father, restraint, dignity, strategy, rise up instead. She walks home in measured steps, each footfall pressing her fury deeper, packing it into something dense and unbreakable. Her neighborhood is quieter and familiar. Children call out on stoops, and neighbors water their steps. She offers no greeting, drifting like a ghost through a world that feels distant. Once inside her apartment, she locks the door, leans back against it, and lets her head rest on cool wood. The tears come, silent and sharp, rolling down her cheeks. Not for the money lost. Her son can always write another check. But for the lesson her dignity was forced to learn again. She paces the narrow hallway, torn paper clenched tight, then sits at her kitchen table. The afternoon sun slanting across familiar photos. Her son as a boy, proud in a school blazer, a trophy for business excellence, his arm around her shoulder. She fingers the phone, hesitant. To call him now is to admit how badly the day has broken her, but pride, real pride, knows when to ask for help. She dials. On the second ring, a young man's voice, calm and full of steel. "Hi, Mom. Everything okay?" She tries to steady her tone. Can you come by? Something happened at the bank." A pause. He understands in that silence. "I'm on my way." "Don't worry, Mom. This won't stand." She looks at the torn check in her hand, the slashes of blue ink across his signature. They didn't even listen. They just tore it up. Tore me up, too. Her son's voice is quiet. "You did nothing wrong. I promise. They'll remember who you are." She wipes her tears and finds a tremulous strength in his certainty. She sets the pieces of the check on the table, each fragment like a shard of old armor. "I want to fight back," she whispers. "You're not alone, Mom," he says. "Let's make this right." She breathes in, slow and steady. Her pain contracts into resolve, a vow unspoken but ironclad. The world will learn her name. Inside the bank, Linda is still riding the adrenaline high of catching a potential fraud. At the staff break room, she retells the story to Sam, embellishing the details with a satisfied grin. You should have seen her face. These people always try something. She barely even argued, just grabbed the pieces and left. Sam nods, half interested, eyes darting to the security monitors. There, a silent loop replays. The woman's check, the confrontation, and the shredding. Cameras miss nothing. Unseen by Linda, a senior manager watches the same feed in his upstairs office, frowning. He's seen enough complaints and enough bad press to know this isn't just another policy call. An anonymous email pings his inbox. "Check what happened at the counter this morning. You're about to make headlines." Meanwhile, in a quiet apartment, the mother sits with her son at the kitchen table. He's calm, but there's a heat in his eyes. "Tell me every detail," he says. She recounts it all. Linda's suspicion, the public shaming, and the sound of the check tearing. Each word hardens his resolve. He opens his laptop, fingers flying across the keys. We'll start with your account records. Proof of your long relationship with this bank. And I'll contact a few friends. The media likes stories like this. He glances at her. We're not doing this for revenge. We're doing it for every mother who's ever been made to feel like a suspect. Across the city, phones buzz. At a local newsroom, a producer reads a tip. Bank accused of humiliating customer. Racial profiling suspected. The wheels of attention begin to turn. Back at the bank, Linda laughs with Sam, still oblivious to the ripple effect she's unleashed. She doesn't notice the glances from a few colleagues or the careful way a manager watches her. She only feels the temporary glow of self-righteousness. Inside the bank, Linda is still riding the adrenaline high of catching a potential fraud. At the staff break room, she retells the story to Sam, embellishing the details with a satisfied grin. You should have seen her face. These people always try something. She barely even argued, just grabbed the pieces and left. Sam nods, half interested, eyes darting to the security monitors. There, a silent loop replays. The woman's check, the confrontation, and the shredding. Cameras miss nothing. Unseen by Linda, a senior manager watches the same feed in his upstairs office, frowning. He's seen enough complaints and enough bad press to know this isn't just another policy call. An anonymous email pings his inbox. Check what happened at the counter this morning. You're about to make headlines. He scrolls down and sees attached screen captures, a freeze frame of Linda tearing the check, the mother's stricken face in full view. His hand tightens on the mouse. Something is different about this case. He feels the rising threat of exposure. Meanwhile, in a quiet apartment, the mother sits with her son at the kitchen table. He's calm, but there's a heat in his eyes. Tell me every detail, he says. She recounts it all. Linda's suspicion, the public shaming, and the sound of the check tearing. Each word hardens his resolve. He opens his laptop, fingers flying across the keys. We'll start with your account records, proof of your long relationship with this bank. And I'll contact a few friends. The media likes stories like this. He glances at her. We're not doing this for revenge. We're doing it for every mother who's ever been made to feel like a suspect. Across the city, phones buzz. At a local newsroom, a producer reads a tip. Bank accused of humiliating customer. Racial profiling suspected. The wheels of attention begin to turn. In a private group chat, a well-known civil rights attorney receives the story and replies, I want the details. Let's get justice. Back at the bank, Linda laughs with Sam, still oblivious to the ripple effect she's unleashed. She doesn't notice the glances from a few colleagues or the careful way a manager watches her. She only feels the temporary glow of self-righteousness, telling herself she did everything by the book. Her pride won't let her consider she could be wrong. The following morning, the bank's atmosphere feels different. Tense, as if everyone senses a storm brewing just out of sight. In the operations office, the senior manager pulls up the previous day's footage one more time, the anonymous email weighing heavy on his mind. As he watches Linda's expression shift from skepticism to outright disdain, he feels a stab of doubt. Maybe it wasn't just procedure. He drafts a cautious memo. Potential incident at front counter. Possible policy review required. Meanwhile, Linda arrives, makeup carefully applied, outfit impeccable. She is determined to carry herself as the day before, confident, unruffled. But as she steps through the staff entrance, she notices colleagues glance at her, conversations stalling as she passes. Someone leaves a copy of the bank's employee manual open to the equal treatment policy in the break room. She shrugs it off, refusing to let anxiety take root. She repeats her new mantra in her mind. I did my job. I followed the rules. She looks suspicious. Across the city, the mother's son is already in action. He sits with a legal advisor, reviewing the account's history. Your mother's record is spotless. She's never bounced a check, never filed a complaint, never overdrawn, the advisor notes, scanning the statements. This isn't just about one bad teller. It's about how they see people like her. No matter what's on the paper, the son nods. He's making calls. Local journalists, a civil rights organization, influential friends from college. His voice is measured, but his words land with quiet force. My mother's name deserves to mean something in that place. She built her life on honesty. I want them to see that. At the bank, Linda is summoned to the manager's office. She sits across from him, nerves on edge, as he asks about the incident. Was there anything about her behavior that made you uncomfortable? He inquires, watching her closely. Linda sticks to her story. It was a large check. We have protocols for fraud. But the manager's eyes are skeptical. You know how this could look, right? If this goes public, Linda feels her confidence waver, just a crack. I did what the policy says, she repeats. But her voice is smaller now. The manager doesn't nod. He simply makes a note on his pad, letting the silence stretch between them. In the newsroom, a producer considers the story. Racial bias at a national bank. Humiliation. A high-profile son. Let's reach out for comment, she says. The first email lands in the bank's press inbox. The day unfolds with unusual gravity. Bank staff gather in the polished marble lobby, a sense of expectation undercut by an undercurrent of dread. Linda smooths her skirt, her eyes drawn to the swirling logo on the glass doors. Rumors have already spread. A visiting executive, someone important, someone whose reputation could bring either praise or disaster. Outside, black sedans glide to a halt. Out steps a group in crisp suits, flanked by PR representatives, and in their midst, a striking, self-assured black man, his presence radiating authority. Linda blinks, not yet recognizing him, only aware of the hushed reverence among management. At his side, dignified and quiet, stands his mother, today dressed with intention, her eyes calm and direct. The mother's heart is steady now. Her humiliation from the day before has steeled into quiet resolve. She catches Linda's gaze but offers no sign of recognition. Instead, she stands a pace behind her son, allowing him to take the lead. Cameras flash, reporters murmur, and every employee lines up, forced smiles and nervous glances everywhere. The manager, sweating under his collar, greets the son with elaborate courtesy. Welcome, Mr. Carter. We're honored to have you visit our branch. Linda's breath catches. The name rings a bell, fragments from the check she shredded yesterday swirling through her mind. She tries to fade into the background, but a PR rep ushers her forward. All frontline staff, please greet our guest. Mr. Carter shakes hands with the manager, then with Linda. His grip is firm, his eyes level. Thank you for your service, he says, his tone impossible to read. For a brief second, Linda glimpses something familiar in his expression, a weight she cannot name. His mother watches silently, hands folded. She surveys the lobby, noting every nervous twitch, every averted gaze. Today she is not the suspect, not the subject of scrutiny, but the silent force behind her son's confidence. The tour proceeds, photographers snapping as Mr. Carter inspects the facility and listens to presentations. Through it all, Linda feels a growing unease. She recognizes the woman. Too late. Her mind reels, questions unspooling. Does he know what happened? Does she? During a planned photo op, the PR director ushers everyone toward the main digital display, a massive screen looping the bank's latest Community Leaders campaign. Suddenly, the video shifts. Mr. Carter's face fills the screen. The words, local CEO, philanthropist, son, pulses across the footage. Linda's knees weaken, the crowd quiets, all attention fixed on the screen. Linda stands beside Mr. Carter and his mother, unable to speak. The mother's face is illuminated in the flickering light, a living contrast to her humiliation the day before. From across the lobby, Sam whispers to another teller. Isn't that... Wait, was she... Linda's heart pounds. She tries to keep her composure, but shame prickles along her neck. She's trapped. No policy, no script, no rulebook can explain away what she did. The lobby hushes as Mr. Carter turns toward the staff, his commanding presence filling the marble room. The digital display still glows above their heads, his image smiling alongside his company's logo, a symbol of triumph. In that moment, every employee, every manager, even Linda, is reminded that reputations can be forged or destroyed inside these walls. Mr. Carter clears his throat, his voice projecting with the ease of a man accustomed to commanding boardrooms. "Thank you all for your welcome," he begins, eyes scanning the crowd. "This bank has been a part of my family's story for a long time. My mother opened her first account here when she was younger than I am now. She's always told me that perseverance is the only answer to injustice." He glances at his mother, whose chin lifts ever so slightly. The staff listens, uncomfortable, sensing that something beyond a polite speech is coming. Mr. Carter continues. "Yesterday, my mother came here. She was treated as a suspect. She was humiliated, not because of her account history, not because of anything she did, but because someone looked at her and saw only risk." Murmurs ripple through the staff. Linda stands frozen, the blood draining from her cheeks. The manager shoots her a frantic look, but it's too late for intervention. "My mother is the reason I'm standing here today," Mr. Carter says, his tone softer now, almost trembling. "Every lesson I've learned about dignity, about how to carry yourself with pride and humility, I learned from her." He turns to face Linda directly. "Some of you may remember her visit. She came here with a simple request, a check signed by her own son. Instead, she was doubted, made to prove her worth, and ultimately her trust was torn up right in front of her." Gasps, whispers. Someone in the back shakes their head in disbelief. The PR director's face is pale, scanning the room for the first sign of a PR crisis. Mr. Carter raises his hand, signaling for quiet. "Humiliation doesn't break us. It reveals us. It's how we answer it that shows our true character." He reaches into his jacket, pulls out a new check, identical in amount, his signature even bolder than before. "This," he says, "is a check of honor for my mother, for everyone who's ever been told they don't belong. And I'm handing it to her here, now, in the open, because she deserves to be seen for who she truly is." He passes the check to his mother. The crowd watches as she accepts it, her hands steady. The digital display behind them shifts to her portrait, dignified, radiant. The tagline reads, "Pioneers among us." Linda is trembling now, eyes glistening with shame. The manager tries to intervene, but Mr. Carter faces him with unwavering calm. "This isn't just about one mistake. It's about a pattern. My mother isn't your first, and if nothing changes, she won't be your last." His gaze sweeps the room. "I'm not asking for apologies. I'm demanding accountability. I want to know what this bank will do, starting today, to make sure this never happens again." Silence hangs heavy. The staff is caught between awe and discomfort. Some glancing at Linda, others at the manager, who now looks as if he's aged 10 years in as many minutes. For a heartbeat, the mother stands at the center of the storm. She doesn't cry. She doesn't gloat. She simply nods at her son, her dignity restored by the public act of honor. Mr. Carter finishes, voice ringing out. "You see a name on a check, you see a face in a lobby, but you never see the whole story until you open your eyes and listen." The bank lobby remains thick with silence, every face turned toward the confrontation no one can escape. Linda's breath catches as the manager calls her over, his voice strained, the edges of authority fraying. "Linda, would you join us here for a moment?" Cameras from the press hover nearby, red lights blinking, recording every nuance. The eyes of the staff, the clients, and the world outside seem to converge. Linda approaches, her hands trembling, The mother stands beside her son, her presence quietly formidable. Mr. Carter's gaze is steady. There's no anger in his face, only the weight of someone demanding truth. "Mrs. Anderson," he says, using Linda's name with deliberate clarity, "my mother deserves more than an apology. She deserves to know that this place will never treat her or anyone like her as a threat again." Linda swallows. Her voice is barely a whisper. I was just following procedure. I didn't mean—" Mr. Carter interrupts, measured but unyielding. "Intentions matter, but so do consequences. Do you understand what you took from her yesterday? What do you take from everyone who looks like her and walks through these doors?" For a moment, Linda's defenses crumble. She sees not a corporate threat, not a policy violation, but a mother whose only crime was trusting the bank she'd used for years. Linda's lips tremble. "I'm sorry. I truly am." The manager, aware of the cameras and the press, steps forward. "On behalf of the bank, we apologize. This is not our standard, and we are reviewing all our procedures." His words feel rehearsed, but in this moment, nothing can mask the discomfort and shame rippling through the room. The mother finally speaks, her voice clear and resonant. An apology is a start, but real change needs courage. She looks at Linda, then at the gathered staff. "The lesson my son spoke of, perseverance in the face of injustice, applies to you too. Don't be afraid to see people for who they are, not for what you fear." Reporters jot down every word. The bank's public relations officer ushers the press aside, desperate to regain control of the narrative. But the story has already left the building. Behind closed doors, chaos reigns. In the executive conference room, every senior manager is present. Faces pale, voices tight, the air crackling with accusation and fear. The regional director dials in, his tone clipped and urgent. "We are facing a potential lawsuit, national headlines, and a PR nightmare. I want to know, step by step, how this happened and who is responsible." Linda sits in the hallway, summoned but not yet called. Her hands are icy, her mind spiraling through regret, justification, and dread. She hears her name spoken, sometimes sharply, sometimes with resigned disappointment, echoing through the glass wall. She remembers her first day at the bank, so eager to do right, to protect the institution. Now, she is the face of its failing. A corporate attorney lays out the facts. There's video evidence, eyewitnesses, a signed statement from the customer. Our equal treatment policy was not followed. We could lose millions, more in reputation than in court. The HR director adds, "The mother is well known in the community. The son's company has influential partners. This isn't going away quietly." The PR lead interrupts. "The press is waiting outside. They want a statement within the hour. Social media is already boiling." Meanwhile, in the mother's home, her son receives dozens of messages, some supportive, some angry, some desperate for justice. News vans idle outside. Community leaders call for boycotts. Civil rights lawyers coordinate, requesting interviews and offering representation. The mother sits at her table, exhaustion etched in every line, but her eyes burn with a new strength. She refuses to be defined by their mistake. At the bank, legal notices begin to arrive. The bank's compliance team sifts through files, desperate to find proof of proper training, evidence of diversity efforts, anything to shield the institution. Instead, they find old complaints, ignored warnings, and a pattern of policy over people that cannot be dismissed. The board convenes. Emergency votes are taken. The branch manager is placed on administrative leave. Linda is formally suspended pending investigation. The HR team drafts a formal apology, but it is too late for simple words. Public pressure mounts. Protesters gather outside the bank, holding signs. Dignity is not optional. Honor her story. Reporters film the growing crowd, live feeds streaming across the country. In a tense public statement, the CEO of the bank appears on television, face grim. "We failed," he admits. "We let suspicion override service. We let bias override basic humanity. We are launching a full, independent review. We will implement real, meaningful changes. Inside, employees are required to attend emergency training on equity and inclusion. The mood is heavy, conversations clipped. Some are angry at Linda, some at the institution, but most feel the shame of complicity, of not speaking up, of not seeing what was in plain sight. Linda is escorted from the building. Her eyes are red. She whispers to herself, "I was just doing my job." But the words sound hollow. Outside, a reporter asks her, "Do you regret it?" Linda pauses, shoulders slumped. "I wish I had listened. I wish I'd seen her as a person, not a problem." The camera lingers on her face, regret, fear, and something softer, a painful realization settling in. In the community, the mother and son are invited to speak at forums, their story inspiring others to share their own. The ripple effect is unstoppable. Banks across the state review their policies, some for the first time in years. A new day dawns. The mother walks past the bank, its windows covered with banners about reform and inclusion. She pauses, stares at her own reflection, and sees not the victim of yesterday, but the catalyst for change. The courtroom is packed. Local journalists scribble in notebooks, community advocates fill the pews, and at the front, the mother sits quietly beside her son. The judge enters, an older black woman whose gaze carries both gravity and compassion. The clerk calls the case. Anderson versus Citizens National Bank. Linda sits at the defendant's table, a lawyer by her side, her hands twist in her lap, knuckles pale. She feels the eyes of the room on her, but what weighs heaviest is the gaze of the mother she wronged. She cannot meet it. The opening statements are sharp. The plaintiff's attorney outlines the humiliation, the bias, the torn check. "What is dignity worth?" he asks the jury. "What does it mean when an entire system sees you as a threat before it sees you as a human being?" Linda's lawyer counters with policy, procedure, and caution, but each argument rings hollow in the quiet. The video is played, Linda's voice, her posture, the sound of the check ripping. The room grows heavy with shame. Witnesses are called, employees who saw the exchange, the senior manager who received the anonymous tip, even Sam, who now looks at Linda with unease. All recount what they saw. No one tries to excuse it. Finally, Linda is called to testify. Her voice is faint at first. "I was trained to look for red flags. We get checks all the time, and sometimes they're fake. I didn't mean to hurt anyone." The attorney presses gently. "Did you ever stop to think about who she was? Did you ever ask yourself if you would have acted differently if she looked like someone else?" Linda's eyes fill with tears. "I don't know. I never meant—" She chokes back, a sob. "I wish I could take it back. I wish I'd listened." "I'm sorry." The mother is called to speak. She rises, her posture unwavering, and faces the court. Dignity isn't a policy. It's a choice we make every day. "I'm here because I want to believe this place and this country can learn to see people for who they are, not who they fear." The judge delivers her ruling. Discrimination, whether intended or not, is never acceptable. This case is a reminder that justice is not just about rules, it is about humanity. She awards damages to the mother, but the real victory is in her final words. "Let this be a lesson in empathy and courage." Linda leaves the courthouse, head bowed, her career, her reputation, gone. The mother exits to the sound of cameras and applause, but what matters most is the quiet nod her son gives her. Respect, pride, and a kind of healing that words cannot capture. Change begins quietly, then all at once. News outlets replay the courtroom moments, panelists discussing not just the mother's triumph, but the flaws in the system that led to it. Major banks announce immediate overhauls, new anti-bias training, anonymous reporting hotlines, regular audits for fairness. The state attorney general's investigation grows, uncovering other incidents, different faces, similar stories. Proving this was never an isolated event, at Citizens National Bank, leadership turns over. The board invites community advocates and diversity experts to help rewrite protocols from the ground up. Employees attend workshops where they listen, not just talk, about what it means to serve every customer with dignity. Old posters come down, in their place are banners. See the person, honor the story. The mother and her son are asked to share their experience at forums, in news interviews, even at a national financial summit. The mother speaks of vulnerability and resilience. Her son speaks of accountability and power. Together, they call for vigilance, not as a moment, but as a movement. Change is only real, she says into a sea of cameras, if we keep looking for what needs fixing and never look away. Other institutions take note. Community leaders push banks to publish transparency reports. Whistleblower protections are strengthened. A civil rights coalition creates a guidebook, modeled on her case, for recognizing and combating unconscious bias at the point of service. In a new employee training video, her story is front and center. Ask yourself, the narrator intones, who do you see across the counter? What assumptions did you bring with you today? The mother's image appears on screen, calm, resolute, inviting reflection. In neighborhoods once ignored by bank executives, new branches open, staffed by people who reflect the community. Trust grows, slowly, as old wounds are acknowledged and addressed. The mother visits the branch one day, greeted by a teller whose handshake is warm, eyes unguarded. "Welcome, Mrs. Carter," she says, using her name with respect, not suspicion. The industry hasn't become perfect overnight. There are still setbacks, complaints, moments of frustration. But a precedent has been set. What happened in that lobby, the ripple that became a wave, is now impossible to ignore. A season passes. The city's air feels lighter. The bank's banners faded but still visible. Reminders of what has changed and what vigilance must protect. In her modest kitchen, the mother sips tea at dawn, the sunlight painting gold across the table. Her son visits often, sometimes bringing news of other victories, sometimes simply sitting quietly beside her, sharing laughter and the soft hush of ordinary days. She reflects on the journey, not just her own, but every moment when dignity was challenged and reclaimed. She thinks of Linda, of the managers and the faces that watched, of the people who reached out to her afterward, grateful and changed. Her pain, once a private ache, has become something larger, a force, a legacy, a call to action. She sees it now, the power of standing one's ground, of demanding more not just for oneself but for everyone still unseen. On a bright afternoon, she walks past the bank where it all began. The glass doors open for her, and she is greeted by her name, not as a suspect, but as a valued guest. The staff smile with genuine warmth. A poster on the wall shows her and her son, her head high, his hand on her shoulder. The caption reads, "Respect, justice, change." A customer, noticing her, says quietly, "Thank you. For all of us." She smiles, humbled. "No, thank you. For seeing me, for seeing all of us." Her story is no longer just hers. It's woven into the city, the bank, the industry itself. It's in the way new tellers are trained, in the conversations held after work, in the letters sent by strangers who felt invisible, but now find hope in her courage. It's in every quiet moment when someone chooses dignity over suspicion, kindness over fear. What do you think society must do so stories like this never repeat? As the day ends, she sits with her son on the porch, watching the world move forward. She is calm, steady, and finally at peace. The lessons live on. Don't judge by what you see. Stand for those who cannot stand alone. Choose courage, even when it's hard.